Pa held up his whistling and looked at her, or whittling and looked up at her, and said, "Naw, darlin', I can't recall either." Ma slapped the arm of her rocker. "Oh yes, now I 'member. She baked them walnut sugar cookies, and the same thing she was gonna do, she called them rope cookies. You's lucky they's some left. All I could do from keeping your daddy from eating 'em." She tipped the cookie jar forward, and Pa reached in and pulled out a cookie that had walnuts stuck on the top of it and sugar dusted over it. Pa bit the cookie and said, "Almost as good as yours, and Sarah." He winked at me. Ma leaned the jar and was about to reach in, and she pulled it back, saying, "Now, Elijah, you know better than that. You've been working hard with Mr. Leroy. Go wash up first." "Yes, ma'am." I ran around the back stoop to wash my hands quick as I could. When I came out front, Ma tipped the cookie jar at me again and dug my hand right in. Ma was right. It felt like Pod near ate all of them. I moved my hand around the bottom of the jar. I felt one of them rope cookies, just as Mrs. Brown must have brung them cookies over, because the last one still felt warm. I pulled the cookie out of the jar. My heart quit beating, and my blood ran cold. At time I stood still, my fingers wrapped around the neck of the worst-looking creature in the Canada West. I screamed, "Snake!" And before I'd known it, I was tearing off the road into the woods. By the time I wound out, I must have gone 2 miles. I stopped and leaned against a tree, waiting for my breath to catch up with me. "Snake!" I screamed for the second time, but this time I remembered to turn the snake's neck loose and throwed it down. I wouldn't have thought a second if it left me to run again, but being fear-tired looked 2 things you can't feel at the same time. When I ran back to our stoop, Ma and Pa's faces were wet with tears. Pa leaned over the side of his rocker like he was having a fit. I'd been so feared and frustrated at my folks that it didn't come to me right till when the snake hadn't crawled out of the cookie jar on its own. He must have had some help. It was a true shock when I figured out that Ma was setting up this whole lesson. When a voice finally came back to me, I said, "Ma, how could you?" They rolled. Pa fought to catch his breathing. "Well, Elijah, seems to me what sauce is for this goose and gander. It's a horrible feeling when people who are supposed to raise you to go out of their way to scare you for no good reason. And making it the worst was they were so much enjoying out of it. Sides, fair's fair. Scaring your ma with a harmless toady frog calls for you getting switched, not fortified. Fortified, wow. Why would you do that?" I cried so hard that the words were choked down in my throat. "Ma, you're always telling me I can dish out, but I can't take it. So if you know that, why could you do this to me? Besides, you know how much I hate snakes." About the same amount I hate toady frogs. "But Ma, toady frogs ain't nothing. Snakes are dangerous. Torrent no toady frog that gave Adam and Eve Twa'n't no toady frog that gave Adam and Eve an apple. 'Twas a snake. And you ain't never heard of nothing called a hoop toady frog, have you? No, 'cause they're harmless. It's snakes that kill you." Pa was slapping his side so hard I was wondering how he didn't bust any ribs. "You could do nothing but expect that kind of rudeness from him. But Ma was carrying on in terrible shock. Ma, I thought you were trying to make it so's I wouldn't be so fragile. Look at me. I can't quit shaking. I could see I was wasting my breath. If people could die from laughing too hard, I would be an orphan. I know it would probably ain't right to feel this way about your own mom and pa, but I swore, disappointed in the way they were acting. Before I got in bed, I even used a stick to flip over my pillow, and I was so shook up, I wanted to make sure Ma wasn't going to carry on no further. End of chapter 1.